Have you ever thought about what it would be like if a city, say one that rivaled ancient Rome, just vanished? I mean, completely swallowed by the earth. Sounds like something out of a movie, right? Well, it actually happened. Today, we're going to uncover the story of a real-life ghost city, Ephesus, and figure out how a superpower of the ancient world could simply disappear. Okay, take a look at this. This is the Library of Celsus. I mean, wow. If you just look at it, you can almost feel the hustle and bustle, right? You can practically hear the echoes of a busy Roman street. This place was a hub, a center of knowledge and power. But now, it's totally silent. Just a ghost of what it used to be. So, that's the big question, isn't it? How does a city this powerful, this grand, just fade away? Well, it wasn't some big, single catastrophic event. It was more like a slow burn, a really fascinating decline pushed along by nature, a bit of conquest, and, the unstoppable march of time. So, to really get a handle on how it fell, we first have to appreciate just how high it rose. We need to understand what was lost. So let's do this. We're about to take a walk through the streets of this ghost metropolis and piece together the story of its incredible life and its slow, eventual death. And you really have to think on a Roman scale here. I'm talking massive. The ancient historian Strabo, he tells us that back in its day, Ephesus was second only to Rome. That's it. And when you see the sheer size of the ruins today, you really start to get a sense of that incredible, incredible scale. All right, let's jump in our time machine and go back to its golden age. Because at its peak, oh man, Ephesus wasn't just another city. It was a shining beacon of culture, a hub of commerce, and just packed with unbelievable architectural marvels. The history of this place is just so deep. It starts way back with Greek colonists. Then it really puts itself on the map by building one of the ancient world's greatest wonders. And then the Romans come in. By 27 BC, under Emperor Augustus himself, it becomes the capital of Roman Asia. That's when it really cemented its status as a global powerhouse. And right at the heart of all that fame was the Temple of Artemis. We're talking one of the legendary 7 wonders of the ancient world. Just try to picture this. A massive building held up by more than 100 huge marble columns, each one soaring almost 60 feet into the sky. It was an absolutely incredible statement of wealth and power. The difference between then and now, it's just staggering. On the left, you see what's left of that legendary temple today, a single lonely column. That's it. And on the right, that's the goddess it was all built for, Artemis of Ephesus. She was this incredibly powerful symbol of fertility, the city's great protector. 24,000. Just let that number sink in. That's how many people could pack into the great theater of Ephesus. This wasn't some small venue for the elites, no way. This was for the masses. It was a place for big dramas, and later on, for gladiatorial combat. It really gives you a feel for just how huge the city's population was. And it wasn't just the big public buildings that were so grand. Check out the terrace houses. These were basically the mansions for the city's wealthiest citizens, and they were just covered in these stunning, intricate mosaics and frescoes. I mean, we're talking about a level of private luxury that could go toe-to-toe with anything in Rome itself. But you know how these stories go. This golden age, it couldn't last forever. And what's really interesting is that the seeds of the city's destruction, they weren't planted by some invading army. Nope. It was something way more relentless, nature itself. See, the city's entire lifeblood was its port, its connection to the Aegean Sea. That's how it got rich. But, as one source puts it really simply, its importance declined as the harbor was slowly silted up by the Jupazer River. And the slow, unstoppable process would literally choke the city to death. So let's break down exactly how this happened. It's pretty straightforward, really. Year after year, the river just kept dumping tons and tons of silt downstream. The city's super important harbor starts to fill up with all this earth getting shallower and shallower. And then the shoreline itself starts to recede. It just moves further and further away until, poof, Ephesus isn't a port city anymore. Its economic lifeline to the entire world was just gone. And this view right here from the Great Theater, it really says it all, doesn't it? You can see it for yourself. Where there was once a bustling harbor, absolutely packed with ships from all over the world, now it's just farmland and marsh. The sea is miles away now. It's such a powerful image of a city that was totally cut off from everything. Now, the silting harbor was the slow,
killer, right? The underlying cause. But a whole series of other disasters basically kicked the city while it was down. In 263, it gets wrecked by the Goths. Then in 614, a massive earthquake hits. And on top of all that, you have repeated sackings by Arab forces. It was just one blow after another, forcing whoever was left to finally give up and leave.
But, believe it or not, the story doesn't just end there with total abandonment. Ephesus left behind all these incredible layers of history, and its ghost, well, it would eventually be reawakened centuries down the road. So, even after its Roman glory faded, the story of this place kept going. Fast forward to the 14th century, and the Seljuk Turks come in and build this magnificent Isa Bey Mosque right on the site. It's a perfect example of how new powers would move in and add their own layers of history right on top of the old Roman and Byzantine ruins. But even with these little bursts of life under new rulers, the city's big problem, its geography, was just too much to overcome. By the time the 15th century rolled around, the site of this once mighty city was completely abandoned, totally empty, just left to the wind and the rain. And it just sat there, forgotten for centuries, until the 1860s, when archaeologists finally started digging and began to uncover its secrets. And this is kind of like its modern rebirth. This work went on for decades, and it all culminates in 2015, when the ruins of Ephesus were finally designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It was finally recognized for what it is, a totally priceless piece of our shared human story. And its importance isn't just stuck in the past either. Get this, you can actually see the Library of Celsus featured right on a modern Turkish banknote. How cool is that? It's a really powerful symbol of national pride and a direct, tangible link to the region's incredible ancient history.
So, this brings us full circle, right back to where we started with a big question. The story of Ephesus is this. Well, it's a stark reminder that even our greatest, most powerful cities are vulnerable. For them, the threat was a river silting up their harbor. But today, rising sea levels pose a very similar threat to coastal cities all around the globe. It really makes you think, doesn't it? Which of our great cities today might become the ghost cities of tomorrow?